My name is Jacob Tovar. I'm 23 years old and I'm a portrait lifestyle photographer. Summer of 2015, my mom had a Canon Rebel T2i that she stopped using. So when she stopped using it, I picked it up and taught myself whatever I could. I would grab my headphones and grab my camera and would walk around downtown Bakersfield. And I would take photos of anything that caught my eye, from buildings to people walking across the street, to cars, to clouds, to landscapes. And I would always fail. I would always shoot in manual mode, but I would always fail. But learning the concepts of shutter speed, of aperture, of ISO, all by the process of trial and error really helped me to understand what that was. Music has really been huge in my life. I'm really into lyrics. I'm really into hip hop music, indie rock music, alternative music, even Spanish. My dad put me onto a lot of Spanish. So when I started photography, I would always play music when I'm shooting, and that's been a huge inspiration on my style of work, how I edit my photos, and the types of moods I tend to capture. Going into photography, Samuel Elkins, he's probably my biggest inspiration for photos. He's a portrait lifestyle photographer from, I believe, outskirts of Seattle. But the way he just composes his photos and poses his models has made a huge impact on my work. I research on YouTube and Google how to go about teaching myself that, from learning what a lower f-stop does opposed to a higher f-stop, learning about shutter speeds and what speeds they should be for certain occasions. Going forward, I've taken a few classes at BC, our Bakersfield College. The first one was press photography with John Hart, and then I followed up with digital and film photography with Christopher Stallworth. Those two gentlemen really motivated me and pushed me in the right direction to keep going with freelance photography. I learned a lot of journalism aspects from John Hart and a lot of more creative, artistic perspectives from Christopher Stallworth. So growing up, I had a lot of my family members, cousins, go to pretty prestigious universities, from Berkeley to Harvard to UCLA. My dad has his master's in psychology. So I was pretty influenced by formal education growing up. And once I graduated from Stockdale High School back in 2012, I went to Bakersfield College for a few years and wanted to pursue a business degree. And then I figured out that I have to take some intense math classes, and math is not my forte. So I switched my degree from business to communications. I took a few communications courses. I love talking to people. I love learning their stories. I love interacting with people on different aspects, from small group to larger group to one-on-one. I really love that about the communication classes. But at the same time, I didn't really feel like school was everything to me. I wasn't passionate about it. I felt very forced to go to school because of not my parents necessarily, but my cousins who went to prestigious schools, to my dad having his master's, and they didn't preach it a lot on me, but it was always assumed, like, oh, how's school going? How are your classes going? Are you getting good grades? What classes are you taking next semester? It was always in conversation. And just by that, I felt a little pressured to continue with my degree. When I picked up a camera in 2015 and really taught myself a lot of what I know and started making a little money off photography, I thought about maybe I could try this full time. Maybe I could really pursue freelance photography. But I waited a while, and slowly I started pushing more photography, pushing more gigs, more portraits, and eventually, as time went by, I got a little better with photography, and my business aspect kind of came up as well. I really have never felt anything more I've never felt passionate about anything deeper than I do about photography. But photography is the most passionate thing I've ever been about. September 18th, 2017 of last year, I took a jump and I just went all in. And since then, I've never been happier. I love just setting my own schedule. I love working with the people who I do. I love traveling to location, having the freedom to do whatever the heck I want. And I really value happiness. And right now, at this time in my life, I've never been happier. So going forward, I would love to continue with this and meet different people and start getting paid for more shoots, but taking it to a different level and going deeper and traveling different places and reaching out to bigger brands, different artists, different models. But photography is my everything. So being born and raised in Bakersfield, it's been pretty different in my opinion, starting with photography and getting more artistic, opposed to living in Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York, Portland or Seattle, where the art scene is more present. I feel like I got into photography at a really good time in Bakersfield, because I'm not saying I'm the first one to take photos like I do in Bakersfield, but there's been a huge movement of creatives and photographers and artists, and I think that's beautiful. Being in Bakersfield and living here, if you think about it, we're about 10 to 12 hours away, driving distance, away from so many cities, from Los Angeles, from San Francisco, from Phoenix, Arizona, from Salt Lake City, Utah, maybe Portland, Oregon. There's so many areas, Yosemite, Sequoia National Park, that we can drive to. So it's a good central location. In my opinion, a lot of people have told me that Bakersfield's kind of not as pretty. It's dirty, it's dusty, and I like to think about it as, I mean, it's my home. It always will be my home. But creating photos in my home and making them look like they're from a different part of the world, as what people have told me, is really rad. People have told me that I make Bakersfield look cool, and that's one of the most humbling things ever. Like, I didn't set out to do that. I didn't set out to inspire people. I didn't set out to do any of this. I just set out to take photos because I liked the art. I liked expressing myself. I liked the way it made me feel. And the emotion of passion is really unexplanatory. There's so much competition in just the art of photography. So sometimes I feel like separating yourself is challenging. Having a different editing style, having a different process can be challenging at times. But if it's original and you like what you're doing, then I feel like that's all that matters. Going deeper on a different aspect, for example, social media. I've been denied, and someone has told me straight up to message them back when I've had 10,000 followers. And that's pretty discouraging at first. At the same time, I understand the aspects of a business where they want to appeal to more people, but I don't think the quality of work should be sacrificed. Even though they told me they really loved my work, they didn't want to work with me just because my numbers weren't up to par. Collaboration, I think, is really rad. Meeting different creative people, whether it's photography, videography, graphic arts, people who are into fashion. I think collaboration is amazing because you can take information from different people and put that into your mind, put that into your mentality, and run with it. So whether it's with an iPhone 5, an iPhone 10, a Canon 1DX, I think people should just shoot more. If you're an amateur wanting to get better, the more you shoot, the better. That's when I find myself most happiest, is when I'm out with my really good friends and we're just having fun taking photos and not really worrying about any jobs or any stress related things. We're just living and taking photos.